Welcome to Left Coast Live. It is Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. We are 6 days out from Election Day. Call it 7 days until we probably get an answer because there are going to be a ton of mail in ballots, and some states you know, that don't start counting mail-in ballots the same time they start counting election day ballots, and it's all sorts of complicated. But we're here to sort it out
Yeah.
and give you our initial thoughts on the election, where it stands now, whether or not Trump or Kamala are trending in the right direction. But to open up the conversation, I will ask you, Stat Pat Stateless Patriot, my co-host, where does your head think this race is at, and where does your heart think this race is at?
Um. I mean, my it still feels like a coin toss. It really could go either way. Even if Kamala Harris wins, there's no guarantee that we win the House, which would basically be required in order to avoid shenanigans.
Yep.
Because Mike Johnson has indicated he's basically signaled that he might not certify the election results. He might not actually certify everybody's vote. And if that's the case, what the hell is going to happen? Nobody knows. It's absolutely insane. Not only that, it's just too close to call at the moment as well.
So
But my
your
heart,
head says that it's too close to call, but what does your heart say?
I feel like people are like, I feel like people are going to come out and vote for Kamala en masse. I
Yeah.
think I think that's ultimately what's going to happen. I think
Yeah.
she'll win the Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Might take North Carolina
Right.
and will probably take Nevada.
Yep.
Um, I hope that she takes Georgia and Arizona. Can't tell at this point. We won't know obviously until like 7 days out from now. But momentum, I think, is back on her side, especially given like how huge the backlash has been to Trump's Madison Square Garden rally.
Yeah, that seems to have hurt him quite a bit. Well, my head tells me that she's going to win
Hmm.
comfortably
Okay.
because all the data is starting to point in that direction.
Yes, I was
But
going to touch on that too.
my heart is protecting itself
Hmm.
and emotionally preparing for another 4 years of Trump,
Right.
because I think that's the emotionally prudent thing to do. It's traumatic what we've been through as a
E-
nation these last 8 years with
big
Trump
time.
taking over the political scene. It's just disgusting how exposed the Republican Party has been these last 8 years, and people in MAGA are just living in denial, thinking that this 8 year sequence of being MAGA isn't going to carry with it enormous reputational consequences. I mean, until you're reformed MAGA, until you say, I regret supporting Trump, you're not forgiven from me. You don't get
Yeah.
forgiveness until
Of
you ask
course.
for it.
Yeah.
And then if you say, I regret voting for Trump and I'll vote Democrat until Republicans reform themselves into something halfway decent, then okay, then cool, then I respect you. But until you say that, I really have. Why should I respect you?
Yeah,
Um,
there's zero humility there, so you'd be hard pressed to actually like not only get an apology, but at least an acknowledgement that they were wrong. You know?
just letting the dog out. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so let's take a look at the polls, the state specific polls, just one last time. They're today. Let's see, Wisconsin. So this is Wisconsin, and it's looking pretty vulnerable. Although the red, it's funny, the red Eagle Politics poll, which is notoriously biased, has it at
Hmm.
even, whereas
Right.
Atlas Intel would have you believe that it's Trump +1. Then CNN comes in with Harris +6. it's these polling companies are going to have to be held to account because they're
Yeah.
all over the place. Everybody should be taking screenshots to see if like CCES UGov is that legit. Marquette University's law school has it at a margin of error race. So I
Yeah.
guess the prediction is, if she's going to have any chance of winning, she's got to win Wisconsin. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's Minnesota's neighbor. Like, give me a break. She's going to win Wisconsin. She's going to win Wisconsin. Okay.
Right.
So then let's check out Michigan, which she should also win. I think Michigan might be statistically more comfortable in Wisconsin. We'll see. Harris +1 is
Hmm.
the average. But more importantly, the recent one, this Atlas Intel seems to be biased towards Trump. Weird.
Hmm.
Beacon Research, Shaw and Company Research from Fox News, actually a well-respected
Yeah.
polling outlet, and that has Harris for the most part. That has Harris comfortably. Margin of error,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's CNN. That CNN SSRS poll might end up becoming, if Harris does win comfortably, CNN SSRS will take a huge bump in
Hmm.
credibility because they're
Right.
being really optimistic right now.
Yeah.
And then the creme de la creme, PA, baby.
Hmm.
Atlas Intel has, oh man, this is not looking good here. Atlas Intel, Quinnipiac, Monmouth, Beacon Research.
Yeah. Now these polls were actually conducted before the
It's,
Madison Square Garden rally,
yeah,
so we'll see how much that plays into it because uh, viewers keep in mind there are 480,000 Puerto Ricans living in Pennsylvania, and if you know anything about the Puerto Ricans, they're very proud. They have a lot of national pride, and they are easily stirred. They will not take kindly to the words that were espoused by that
Hincliffe.
comedian at Trump's rally for sure. So this might change the tide. It might not, but I think there will be something a bit noticeable in the days to come. And keep in mind, guys, we are 6 days away. The fate of our country is going to be decided in less than a week.
Yeah, that guy Hincliffe is going to take a pretty big hit in his career
Oh
for that
yeah,
appearance. I
he's
don't
been
think he's going to
whining.
be very welcome at too many comedy clubs in urban and suburban areas, which is where most comedy clubs are.
Yeah, it's really funny because it's like he's been whining like for the past few days on Twitter, like it's a joke, it's a joke, it's a joke. You guys are so easily triggered. Come on,
It's like,
Tim
no,
Waltz, you
it's at a
did it.
political campaign. You're not at a nightclub, dude. You're at a
Yeah,
political campaign. You are. This is
yeah.
serious. Like they're cheering, but this is serious
And they
business.
tried
We're
to do
talking about the future of our country and the way we value things,
they tried to do
like immigrants.
they tried to do damage control about it. You know, they're saying, oh well, our speakers like this guy, we didn't vet him. You know, which is a really bad look. Like, okay, for one, how can you not vet your speaker? How do you not know what he's going to say? Uh, and for two, if you did vet him, why did you allow this? And apparently, they actually did. They lied. They did vet this guy, and they approved his speech. They approved his comments.
Yeah, I know. And they
Eh, eh,
scratched a line where he called Kamala the C word,
yes, yeah, yeah.
which is
Yeah.
just outrageous. I
No, of
mean,
course, of
they
course.
they cut that, but they didn't cut the Puerto Rico is trash bit.
All the
I
yeah,
mean,
and
wow.
what really gets me too is like, oh, if you know Latinos, they like to make babies quite a lot, and God, just some of the most disgusting aspects about these comments lately is like
But that's how they
it's all
think.
back. Yeah, it's all backed by like a lot of them are really pushing for the end to birthright citizenship, meaning like if you're born here in America, like that doesn't matter anymore. Your parents have to be born here, or else you're not a citizen. So that would literally end the citizenship of potentially tens of millions of people, very very much millions upon millions upon millions of people. And at that point, how do you get them out of the country? You can't. Like logistically speaking, that's pretty much
No, it would
impossible
be
without the use
historical
of.
level of dysfunction. It's going to be an
Yeah,
historical level of dysfunction if Trump wins. I
of
mean,
course,
it's
of
just going to be
course.
absolute chaos.
Yeah, and this guy's trying to like this like fucking comedian bullshit. He was trying to like downplay it on Twitter and whatnot, and like this guy, it's like these types of people, these types of like edgy comedians that aren't even really that fucking funny to begin with. It's just all mean spirited. The thing about, oh, it's just a joke, it's one of my favorite concepts ever. It's like Schrodinger's douchebag. Some people call it, but you can call it a whole bunch of other things. Whether or not your statement, like you making like an edgy comment or whatnot, is interpreted as serious or unserious, like a joke, depends on the positive or negative reaction of people around you. If your reaction is positive, like yeah, I'm glad you agree with me. If the reaction is negative, it's like, oh, you can't take a joke. Just
It's a cop out. It's a
yeah,
cop out.
big
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
actually, what he could say, and it wouldn't win with everybody, but it would win with a lot of people, is hey, bad joke.
Yeah.
Bad set.
Oh
Bad
yeah.
set, man. I'm sorry. I mean, the American public responds well to contrition.
Yeah, take some accountability, like show a little bit of decency and like humility, just a little bit of like self awareness, and just accept that like you said the wrong things. This doesn't play well to a lot of people. You gotta acknowledge that like you said some racist shit. People don't fucking respect that or agree with it. At the very least, but they can't do that. They have to keep on doubling down or say like, "Oh, he wasn't vetted." And then Trump, what does Trump do? He does the fucking classic Trump thing that he always fucking does every single time. That like there's negative backlash to anything. Oh, I didn't know the guy. I didn't know
Right.
him. I don't know him. I don't know the guy. Just like people start waking up to Project 2025 and the evils within it. It's like I don't know anything about it. I don't.
Even though
It's
J.D.
it's not
Rance
mine.
wrote the
It's
foreword.
yeah. It's like I don't know anything about it. I'm not. It's not. I don't. It's not. I don't know anything about it.
Well, even at the point is
No
for me
accountability.
in this election is like this is America getting real with itself and getting
Hmm.
real with a very dark, ugly, disgusting sect of our society that is MAGA.
Yeah.
I mean, let us thank Donald Trump for exposing this ugly, disgusting sect of our society that many people, I would argue most people, didn't know was there. Or if they knew it was there, they didn't understand it as an agent of evil. Project
Yeah.
2025 is evil.
Pure. Yeah. In the
It is
purest sense.
evil.
It's written
It
by
is
evil people.
it is evil.
Hmm.
And the most compelling part of Kamala's candidacy is kind of a it's interesting that she's a woman of color because she would represent kind of a natural progression of rhetoric, still talking about race in a constructive way, but ultimately prioritizing women for the next 4 to 8 years and making sure that our women are taken care of. And that's
Yeah.
kind of her current messaging resonating with me. And that's what
Of course.
they've been going after. I think it's smart is those game day male voters. And I actually got an anecdotal piece of evidence, a story from a black friend of mine who lives in Texas, and he went to vote early and overheard a white trucker, cowboy hat wearing type of guy saying, I can't do another round with that asshole. I'm going with the black chick. So that's
I love
encouraging.
that. I love that.
That's encouraging. I mean,
No, of
why not? I
course.
think a woman and a female minority has never had a better chance. It still might not be as good of a chance as it should be or as others think it should be,
Yeah.
but it is true that the country has never been more ready for this kind of president in a demographic sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think a lot of tough guys, and hey, remember the voting curtain is closed. You can
Yeah.
tell people you voted for Trump and you didn't.
Yeah.
Just lie.
Exactly.
Just lie.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
a that's a benevolent lie. If you have
Yeah.
to lie and say you voted Trump to maintain friendships, and and privately you're voting for Kamala, like just don't wear MAGA hats, man, and I'm good. I'm good
Yeah.
with you as long as you don't rock the MAGA gear. Then I will be kind and polite to you. But if I
Yeah.
see that MAGA hat,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Generally, I do have good feelings.
retribution.
Generally, I do have good feelings about the state of things in general. Like, I do feel like people are just so exhausted, so tired, and so fed
Yeah,
up with all of it.
ready
Like,
for it to be
even
over.
yeah, even Trumpsters, I feel like are just so freaking lazy. Like, they're not coming up with anything new. They're not showing any actual enthusiasm or
No, the energy's gone. It's
it
not even
really
close to what
is.
it was 8 years ago or even 4 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
people are tired of because it's the same dog and pony show.
Hmm.
It's the same routine. Speaking of
Yeah.
stand up comics, we've made the comparison before. Trump is like a really bad stand up comic
Yeah.
that, like a road hack, as they're known in the industry,
Hmm.
that has a few things that usually get laughs, but over time, especially if you've seen the act before, you realize, wow, this really isn't that smart. This really isn't that sharp. And yeah, there was a guy named Dice Clay back in the
Andrew Dice
80s
Clay. Yeah.
that was really hurtful in his
Hmm.
comedy. And George Carlin warned him. He said, hey, man, you should do what you want, but just so you know, you are trying to accomplish the impossible task, which
Hmm.
is punching down
Yeah.
and punching down on those less fortunate,
Yes.
especially in urban and suburban areas. If you had comedy clubs in, that whatever that town is in Idaho where it's like Trump fans only,
Hmm.
you could do some stuff there that would probably work. This guy Hinchcliffe would kill there. But in urban and suburban areas, when people have actually grown up and realized that these are just cheap shots, that
Hmm.
they get over it pretty quickly. I mean, the audience, the American audience, gets a lot of shit for being dumb, but that's like people who watch reality TV all the time and have no taste. Like for the people that watch scripted content and like comedy and documentaries, like thinking types of
Yeah.
content, they are aware that this is getting tired. There are some people who are right of center who are like that, and they will be voting for Kamala in this election. I believe intellectually, my
Yeah.
heart my heart still has no faith in the Democratic Party,
Of course. Yeah.
and
They're like
this
their own
election
worst
won't
enemy.
change that. Even if she wins, this election will not change my
Yeah.
attitude toward the Democratic Party.
E- e-
It's really guilty until proven innocent with them for the foreseeable future.
yeah, even if she wins and we hopefully take the house, like these Project 2025 Neanderthals are not going away. These MAGA types aren't going away. These evil motherfuckers from the Heritage Foundation aren't going away. The Supreme Court's still gonna have the makeup it is. It's going to take like multi years, decades long effort for to unravel the damage that Trump has done to this country, and I don't have as much faith as that getting completely undone to the extent that it should be. But you make a great point about Andrew Dice Clay. It's like, in general, whether you're a comedian or you're a politician, you have to, one, know your audience, and two, understand the context of the position you're in. The reason why there is so much backlash to Hinchcliffe's routine at Madison Square Garden at the Trump rally was because you're there for Trump's the biggest rally basically of the campaign for him, like one of the biggest ones. It's like the final message, and you completely squandered it. You're not supposed to be there belittling entire groups of people. You're trying to convince people to vote for the fucking
Well,
candidate that you're
especially there
intending to
are a
place them
lot
for.
of Puerto Ricans in New York.
Yeah,
And I bet you if there weren't any Puerto Ricans in the audience, there were a lot of people who knew Puerto Ricans and, if not liked them, definitely respected them because
yeah,
they're hardworking immigrants. I mean, Jesus Christ, this immigrant issue is so easy to turn on its head.
yeah. It is. Yeah,
Because if we did path to citizenship, what is that going to yield? Voters!
yeah, yeah.
Just like
It,
student loan debt relief. What does it yield? Voters!
yeah, yeah. Not to mention, it's like, but like it, because their excuse is going to be like, oh, it's rigged against us anyway. So like, what's the point of like garnering more support? Like when you can just say it's rigged anyway. Like why try to appeal to more people when you can just double down on your fucking bigotry and your xenophobia?
Well, they're just not
And
creative.
yeah,
I mean, this
as
is
we discussed, yeah.
they were creative
Hmm.
after Nixon. There's a saying in film school that, well, it's just in all of creativity. What is creativity's best friend? The answer would surprise you. It's limitations.
Hmm.
Okay? So after
Understandable.
Nixon, the Republican Party had to overhaul itself. I mean, they were like, wow, we have got so much baggage. What are we going to do? Then they got hooked up with Carter making mistake after mistake
Yeah,
and
which
being
gave them
just this
Reagan.
soft Southern gentleman. And then here comes Reagan, this good looking, strapping California cowboy. And it
Hmm.
was just off of that, they got so much mileage about, like, do you think that America is a Sunday school peanut farmer who is really, really nice and everyone respects as intelligent, but ultimately doesn't inspire confidence in our ability to kick ass, which is what mattered back in the Cold War. And so Reagan came along,
Yeah,
and now there's that legacy of tough guy politics where conservatives have to think of themselves as tough guys. See, they
yeah,
think being a winner and being a tough guy is the same thing. They
yeah.
think being tough equals winning. And that's
No.
not true. In fact, being tough is mostly about dealing with losing.
Yeah. No, like actually, like that's actually a really, really good way to put it, honestly. And like, you, like I couldn't have said it better myself, honestly. When it comes to, I mean, for Hinchcliffe himself, if I remember this correctly, I don't even think because I didn't even watch like the whole routine, like his whole speech that was at Madison Square Garden. But I don't even think he mentioned Trump once. I don't think he
I
actually
don't know.
said his name or
I didn't
anything
watch
like
it.
that. Yeah, but
I'm tired myself. I'm fatigued politically. I'm ready
big
for
time.
it to be over. I don't know what kind of coverage we're going to do on election night because everyone's going to be
Right?
going live. So I'm wondering
No,
if
of
we shouldn't
course.
just go live when the results drop. Um, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. But
Yeah,
no, I
maybe
mean,
maybe
I
tune
think
into various shows.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, look, the video essays and this weekly show, we're going to continue to grow, and
Hmm.
we're gonna matter someday,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be on the record about a lot of shit, like
Hmm.
Kamala's incrementalism, which you know
Hmm.
is coming down the pipe. No matter how
Of course.
successful she is in this election, it's not going to
Yeah.
be structural change. It's
Of
not.
course.
She's just not that kind of leader. I mean, maybe she'll surprise me, but I, I seriously doubt it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's. I mean, uh, in a lot of aspects, I don't think Biden and the Biden administration get a lot of credit for their relatively progressive accomplishments, but that's all
Mhm.
drowned out by his age and his complete and utter failure to rein Israel in, and his complete and utter failure to end the ceasefire in Gaza and get the ceasefire. And now
Oh,
they're
I don't
invading
think the
Lebanon and
general
whatnot.
American public gives a shit about Israel. I don't think
Yeah,
the American public votes occur in terms of how they vote. Foreign
Hmm.
policy doesn't mean what it used to in the Cold War.
It's kind of crazy though. Like stopping arms supplies to Israel polls really well among Democrats, but will
Yeah,
also
but you know
poll
who
well.
runs the American political system is APAC and the
Yeah,
NRA.
of course. Yeah, but what also polls well, I mean, ironically enough, when asked about Joe Biden and like I guess when it comes to his favorability or your reasons for not voting him or your concerns or whatever in various polls, because they all word it differently, the one of the biggest concerns about him was his age. Time and time again, that was like the
Right.
number one issue about him across the board, no matter what side of the political aisle you were on. And so, like, because that was such a big deal and it had big poll numbers, like, consistently, especially after his debate with Trump, they yanked him out and they put in Kamala Harris. Yet nothing can be done about, twisting Israel's arm or reining them in, even though that polls very well among
Yeah, but Medicare
Democrats
for
in
all
general.
polls really well
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So
I mean,
it's like they
the
pick and
policy
choose.
polls. If the policy polls mattered, we wouldn't have a show. Maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, of course. Yeah, things would be a lot different for sure. Yeah.
yeah, we wouldn't have as much to complain about.
Hmm. Exactly right.
Complaints. The word complain is a lot like the word blame, and it's also a lot like the word victim, where people the connotation is so negative, but those things are intellectually very valid. Blame is just the appropriate placement of responsibility. Complaining is making known a problem, and victim is someone that's been wronged. It's not like people people are saying they're survivors. Okay, yeah, they're still here, right? That's kind of the implicit message is that whoever was the victim of some sort of abuse or injustice survived that and moved on with their life. I think that's a good thing, but I don't think we should be afraid of certain words because there are victims out there and there are very valid complaints left and right, and that's what this show is not about just complaining. If you've been paying attention, we offer suggestions for
Yeah,
how to make things better, not always in the form of policy because the policy is pretty obvious. It's the
yeah,
political strategy, it's the political tactics, it's the political marketing that we're focused in on here. Specifically with me, and I think you too, but maybe you wouldn't use these words, is the emotional connection that must exist between the presidency and the American public, and
sure.
how that light of the presidency needs to shine on other parts of the political system. One
Yeah,
thing Obama didn't do was set up the next generation. I mean,
yeah,
where in those last 2 years, he should have been, yeah, trying to get stuff done at the same time, but also more importantly, setting up the next generation. Not, oh, Hillary's turn. It's Hillary's turn. It's like, well, it's not just Hillary. Like, where are we going to move further left? Like, if we go with Hillary, we're not. We're going to go back to the center.
yeah,
So he just didn't have the courage. In hindsight, it probably would have been better to have Hillary for 8 years and then Obama for 8 years. But who knows? I
right.
don't know. I don't know. We're living
Yeah,
in this world.
yeah. I mean, being, I like your point about not being afraid to use words properly, like and as they should be. Like everybody's so afraid to like label Trump as the F word, oh, fascist and whatnot. It's like
Yeah, that's
just
what he is.
call a spade a spade.
Yeah,
Antic
people are
despair.
afraid of the Nazi comparison. It's completely valid. Fuck
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Like,
and
no, stand your ground.
it's
Stand
like
your
listen,
ground, lefties.
no, for real, it's like such utter weakness and spinelessness. Trump and his cronies and whatnot go on day after day after day on social media or at Trump rallies and whatnot, calling Democrats the enemy within,
Yeah,
degenerates, low
yeah.
IQ, radical extremists, and all
Poisoning
this
the
shit.
blood of our country.
Yes, and then like Joe Biden crawls out of the hole that he's been sleeping in for 3 months and calls MAGA garbage and Trump supporters garbage, and they all have a fucking meltdown over that. Oh, so I'm sorry. Like, what happened to like being offended and shit like that? Like, not being a big deal. It's like get over it. What happened to that? What happened to your like fuck your feelings?
Hey, love him or
Uh
hate him, Howard Stern has always had the pulse of this country pretty in tune,
hmm
and he hates MAGA. He's like, I hate those people.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't care if I don't get as big of an audience by not acting
yeah,
like they're decent people. I think they're
and
trash.
good for him.
Yeah.
Honestly, like
Yeah,
stick
and that
to
he's
it.
got balls. What people don't realize
Yeah.
is that takes balls because all that white trash that you're calling white trash, they got guns. A lot of
hmm
them.
Yeah.
And if you're a public figure and you make your, I don't want to say hatred, but I mean, you can hate the ideology without hating the people. I mean, the people are
Sure.
overgrown children. In a large part,
They
their
really are.
status isn't necessarily their fault, but it is their
Yeah.
responsibility. So you can forgive their souls and you can acknowledge their humanity, but don't forgive them as citizens. Don't forget
Yeah.
and don't what is it? So I'm saying never forgive, never forget, and never
hmm
respect. Never
Yeah.
respect them as citizens again. It's a
Yeah.
waste of time. We're better off if they're better off if they're left out of the
hmm
political system.
Big time. I couldn't agree more because they
And it's
really do.
counterintuitive. It's like solving. It's like when you're reading history and you
hmm
really like some historical figure and you want him to be a hero, or it's reading a book. Don't even go fiction. Don't even go nonfiction with it. You can go fiction with it. It's reading some book and some characters introduced like, oh, I hope this character's awesome. The character sounds like me, and then there's a
Yeah.
twist, and that character reveals to be a lion sack of shit, right?
Right.
Well, you
Yeah.
can't ignore that. You have to accept that. And you have to accept that the
Right.
people in your life who are MAGA and who are defending MAGA, there's something wrong with them and the
hmm
way that they view the world. The fact that you would not give this left of center pedestrian politician in the form of Kamala Harris your vote to keep
hmm
Trump away from the White House, the fact that you won't do that
Yeah.
on your own, you can't get there on your own with how important that is. I say 3 strikes and you're out. If you
Yeah.
voted for Trump 3 times, I respect your right to live, but ideally you'd go live somewhere else. And
Yeah.
I don't want you to know you. Like, go, watch your NASCAR and your MMA and just
Yeah.
leave me alone. Just leave me alone,
Right.
man.
Right.
Unless
Yeah.
if you want to talk, then
hmm
come in as a student and I'll be
Yeah.
the teacher. And we
Yeah.
can talk. If you want to talk, that's how it's going to be. You don't give the child any more respect than it deserves. Like, it's a balancing act, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Because they really do behave and act like children. Because
Yes.
if you pin them down on anything, if you like engage with them and just start to strip down beliefs and whatnot, and what's fact and what's not, and what's conspiracy, what's made up, what's not, what's biased, and what's not reliable. You start like breaking all that down and start building it back up again piece by piece. It's like Legos. Like you start building it back up, and they just want to kick it right the fuck back down because they don't give a
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
It's
They
it's
want to
exact.
win.
I've had
They
it
they
happen to
look at
me.
it they look at it as winning and losing. They don't look at it as learning. What's a real intellectual going to do when confronted with the reality that he's either wrong, that his reasoning is wrong, or that he just doesn't know? Maybe he
Yeah.
doesn't know a fact or a data point that his intellectual competition did know, and that
hmm
changes his mind.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what that is to an intellectual winner? It's an opportunity to learn. It's an
Yes.
opportunity to get better. It's an
hmm
opportunity to show courage by saying, I was wrong or I didn't know, and
hmm
then doing more homework and becoming a better political athlete, right? I mean, no one's
Yeah.
perfect. Everybody
hmm
makes mistakes. Even the great FDR made his share of mistakes.
Yeah.
And so
No,
we
of
got to
course.
learn and get better. But unfortunately, for me, it's probably not going to be till I'm in my 50s when I actually see America kind of get real with a lot of these problems. I mean, that's what's
Yeah.
frustrating is with Kamala, I think, in this hope and joy, right? It's more hope. It's not hope and change. It's hope and joy now.
Hmm.
Um, we're all kidding ourselves.
Right.
We're going to be back here fighting these same battles in 4 years. Maybe we'll put abortion behind us. We'll pass some sort of immigration. Hopefully, it's got path to citizenship in it. If it doesn't, then immigration is still not resolved. Um, and and after that, though, what else do you see her really working on? What else could she really deliver on? Do you or reasonably?
Yeah.
And she's going to need the Congress to codify Roe v. Wade, right?
Ultimately, yeah. And
Yeah.
as things currently stand, the House has a 53-47 chance of staying red, which isn't very encouraging, but like there's a chance. Like the odds aren't completely in our favor, but like for at least this election, there's a chance it does flip our way. I really hope that the turnout is high enough to where some of those close House races do flip blue, so we do end up taking the House, and Hakeem Jeffries does become Speaker because the the advent of Speaker Johnson remaining there and not certifying the election results, that can like present a big issue. I'm not exact.
I don't think he
Uh,
will. I think he'll certify them. I think he will. In the moment, there's going to be so much pressure on him. He is a small little man. He's going to give in to that. I
yeah,
think. I could be wrong. I mean, I hope I'm not. I mean,
he
it'll be
is
fireworks if he doesn't.
he is a weird little freak. But what really concerns me about um, the just the potential that he doesn't certify the election is Trump hinting at a little secret that him and Mike Johnson have after the race is over. He stated this like he stated this at one of his rallies. What could he be referring to? What everybody is pointing to is Speaker Johnson not certifying the election results because
Right.
he's the House Speaker. So because in order to certify the election results, is that I need to do a bit more like digging into this, but like is that the House votes to certify, does it not, or is that is the House
Yeah, and
Speaker
then
the head
no,
of
it's the
that?
Senate. The House confirms the vote tally, and then the
Hmm.
Senate confirms it, and that's why Pence was in that position because as vice president, you're president of the Senate, and that's why he
Right.
was there. So it's really up to Kamala herself to certify if as long as it gets through the House. If it doesn't get through the House, and so then we got ourselves a problem.
Yeah.
Got ourselves a problem, and
Yeah.
I don't know how the public would respond to that. I mean, I think you'd see a lot of civil disobedience, and particularly in the Washington D.C. area.
Well, I mean, when it comes to certifying the results in the House, like it doesn't have to be unanimous, does it? Like if enough
No,
Republicans, like if Kamala Harris, you know, I suppose it doesn't matter anyway because if the House votes to
no. So the
certify it,
Electoral College sends the representatives to the Senate, I believe. I don't know. We have to check. We have to check.
yeah,
We shouldn't be irresponsible
sure,
and put stuff out there that we don't know
of
is
course,
factual.
of course, yeah,
Take our honor our practice what we preach here.
yeah,
And we'll talk more about that if we get it, because that situation only happens if Kamala wins.
yeah,
So we'll see.
yeah,
The good news is about that situation is that Biden is the incumbent. Kamala's a pseudo incumbent.
hmm,
So it's not like last time where Trump was going to have to be forced to leave office. Trump
hmm,
would have to be forced to put into office. And I think that's a much taller
yes.
task.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, especially given how much more power Biden has now because of the Supreme Court. So it it's gonna get hairy. It's gonna be a very spicy next few months, that's for sure. Um, yeah, you want to go ahead and get into the Harris
Yeah, the
closing
speech.
argument? Yes.
Yep, we'll do the ellipse speech.
Yeah. See just how see what she has to say for this. A little loud. About like half.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives.
Yeah, it's annoying. It can get a little annoying when they start chanting. So everyone's all
Yeah.
fired up to be there, but
Right.
Thank
We
you,
could do it
thank you,
1.5.
everyone.
yeah.
So listen, 1 week from today, you will have the chance to make a decision that directly impacts your life, the life of your family, and the future of this country we love. And it will probably be the most important vote you ever cast. And this election is more than just a choice between two parties and two different candidates. It is a choice about whether we have a country rooted in freedom for every American or ruled by chaos and division.
That's literally it.
Many of you watching have probably already cast your ballots,
I got my ballot right here.
but I know
Yeah, me
many
too.
others are still considering who to vote for or whether you'll vote at all. So tonight, I will speak to everyone about the choice and the stakes in this election.
With the siren going the
We know
whole
who
time.
Donald Trump is.
Right, yeah.
He is
Look
the
why.
person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol to overturn the will of the people
Yeah,
in a free
thank you.
and fair election.
Stick this in their face till the day they die or the day
Yeah.
they repent.
He lost.
Yes.
Americans
Yes.
died as a result of
Stick
that
it in
attack.
their face.
140
Yeah.
law enforcement officers were injured because of that attack.
Jeez.
And while Donald Trump sat in the White House watching as the violence unfolded on television, he was told by his staff that the mob wanted to kill his own vice president. And Donald Trump responded with 2 words: so what?
Yeah, he was even trolled about it.
America,
Like, hey,
that's who Donald Trump is.
why isn't Pence running
And
mate?
that's who is asking you to give him another 4 years in the Oval Office. Not to focus on your problems, but to focus on his. And Donald
Yeah.
Trump has told us his priorities for a second term. He has an enemies list of people he intends to prosecute.
Yeah.
He says that one of his highest priorities is to set free the violent extremists who insulted those law enforcement officers on January 6th. Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power.
Yeah, she's
Donald
nailing it.
Trump has spent a decade trying to keep the American people divided and afraid of each other. That is who he is. But America, I am here tonight to say that is not who we are. That is not who we are. That is not who we are. You see, what Donald Trump has never understood is that e pluribus unum, out of many one, isn't just a phrase on a dollar bill. It is a living truth about the heart of our nation. Our democracy doesn't require us to agree on everything. In fact, we like good arguments from time to time. Just think of your own family, right? It's not the American way to not have disagreements. We don't shy away from robust debate. In fact, we like a good debate, don't we? We like a good debate. And the fact that someone disagrees with us does not make them the enemy within. They are family, neighbors, classmates, co-workers. They are fellow Americans. And as Americans, we rise and fall together.
Yeah.
America, for too long, we have been consumed with too much division, chaos, and mutual distrust. And it can be easy then to forget a simple truth. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
It is time to stop pointing fingers. We have to stop pointing fingers and start locking arms. It is time to turn the page on the drama and the conflict, the fear and division. It is time for a new
Please.
generation of leadership in America.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
she's good with the teleprompter. She's very competent with the
And I
teleprompter.
am ready
Oh,
to
yeah.
offer that leadership as the next president of the United States of America.
Yeah, she's been
And
doing
it's
it for
great.
3 months
She's
now.
been
Yeah.
she's been so smart about
Now,
race
look,
and gender.
Let me say,
Yeah,
I
by not
recognize this is
touching
not my
on it.
political campaign. Even though I've had the honor of serving as your vice president for the last 4 years, I know that many of you are still getting to know who I am. Well, let me tell you, I am someone who has spent most of my career outside of Washington, D.C., so I know that not all the good ideas come from here. I am not afraid of tough fights against bad actors and powerful interests, because for decades, as a prosecutor and a top law enforcement officer of our biggest state, I won fights against big banks that ripped off homeowners, against for-profit colleges that scammed veterans and students, against predators who abused women and children, and cartels that trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. And I did this work because for as long as I can remember, I have always had an instinct to protect. There's something about people being treated unfairly or overlooked that frankly just gets to me. I don't like it. It's what my mother
Relatable.
instilled in me. A drive to hold accountable those who use their wealth or power to take advantage of other people. The drive to protect hardworking Americans who aren't always seen or heard and deserve a voice. And I will tell you that is the kind of president I will be. And look, I'll be honest with you, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. But here's what I promise you. I will always listen to you, even if you don't vote for me. I will always tell you the truth, even if it is difficult to hear. I will work every day to build consensus and reach compromise to get things done.
You don't
And
need to
if you give me a
compromise if you
chance to
win
fight
big.
on your behalf,
No.
there is nothing in the
But
world
the
that
map
will stand
doesn't
in my way.
lend itself to that. Yeah, the map doesn't lend itself to winning
World that
big.
will stand. And if you give me the chance to fight on your behalf, there is nothing in the world that will stand in my way.
Except for Congress.
So look, in less than 90 days, either Donald Trump or I will be in the Oval Office. Okay? On day one,
All right, come on now. We got to get through it,
and
guys.
on day one, if elected, Donald Trump would walk into that office with an enemies list. When elected, I will walk in with a to-do list.
Oh,
That's a good line.
so good.
Full of priorities
Yeah, I like
of what
that,
I
yeah.
will get done for
Little
the
cheesy.
American people.
Sure.
And I will work with everyone, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, to help Americans who are working hard and still struggling to get ahead. I have been honored to serve as Joe Biden's vice president. But I will bring my own experiences and ideas to the Oval Office. My presidency will be different because the challenges we face are different. Our top priority as a nation 4 years ago was to end the pandemic and rescue the economy. Now, our biggest challenge is to lower costs that were rising even before the pandemic and that are still too high. I get it. I still remember our mother sitting at that yellow Formica table, late at night, cup of tea in hand, a pile of bills in front of her, trying to make it all work. And I've heard from so many of you who are facing even greater financial pressures. Donald Trump's answer to you is the same as it was the last time. Another $1 trillion in tax cuts for billionaires and big corporations. And this time, he will pay for it with a 20% national sales tax on everything you buy that is imported. Think about it. Clothes,
Yeah.
food, toys, cell phones. A Trump sales tax that would cost the average family nearly $4,000 more a year. And on top of that, you will pay even more if Donald Trump finally gets his way and repeals the Affordable Care Act, which
Yeah.
will throw millions of Americans off their health insurance and take us back to when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. Well,
Yeah.
we are not going back.
If yes, bring that phrase back,
Yeah.
please. Yes, finally.
We are not going back because we also know Donald
we
Trump would deliver tax cuts to his billionaire donors. I will deliver tax cuts to working people and the middle class.
So that'll
I will
be
make sure
a
you
big
have
thing.
a
She's
chance
going to have
not
to
just
deliver
get
on
by,
that.
but to get ahead.
Big time. Big time.
Promise a tax cut.
Because
You
I
better deliver
believe
a tax
in
cut.
honoring
Absolutely.
the dignity of work. I will enact the first ever federal ban on price gouging on groceries,
That's a good idea.
cap the price of insulin, and limit out-of-pocket
Yeah.
prescription costs.
I mean,
for
these are
all
the
Americans.
greatest hits right now, which is
Yeah.
I
fine.
will fight to make sure
As
that
expected.
hardworking Americans can actually afford a place to live. I'll never forget how our mother saved up and how excited she was when she could finally afford to buy our first home. I remember how excited she was. And I know that owning a home is not only a measure of financial security, it's about the pride of your hard work. And as president, I will fight to help first-time home buyers with your down payment take on the companies that are jacking up rents and build millions of new homes.
Well, that would be great if she could
For years,
break stuff
we have
up.
heard excuses about why America can't build enough housing. Enough with the excuses. I'm going to cut the red tape and work with the private sector and local governments to speed up building and get it done. And the cost of housing isn't the only financial pressure on middle-class families. I've met so many young people who have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not always the resources to do it. So I'll fight for a child tax credit to save them some money, which will also lift American children out of poverty. I'll work to lower the cost of childcare, which is out of reach for too many working families today. And for too many people in the sandwich generation who are raising young children and taking care of a parent, juggling all of it is extremely difficult. You know, I took care of my mother when she got sick, cooking food that she had a taste for, finding clothes that would not irritate her skin. And understand, as I do, that caregiving is about dignity. It is about dignity.
Yeah, I'm dealing with that myself.
And currently, if you need home care and you don't have some money to hire
It's such a
someone,
good policy.
you and your family need to
It's a good
deplete your
idea.
savings to qualify for help. That's just not right. So we're going to change the approach and allow Medicare to cover the cost of home care.
Wow.
So seniors
Yeah,
can
it's a
get
big
the
deal.
help and care they need in their own homes. Now, Donald Trump has a different approach. He tried to cut Medicare and Social Security every year he was president. Look, I believe that when people have worked hard their entire life, they deserve to retire with the benefits they have earned. And I believe in the fundamental freedom of Americans to make decisions about their own bodies and not have their government tell them what to do. I will fight to restore what Donald Trump and his hand-selected Supreme Court justices took away from the women of America. That today, 1 in 3 women in America, think about it, 1 in 3 women in America lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban. Many with no exceptions even for rape and incest. The idea that a woman who survives a crime of a violation to her body should not have the authority to make a decision about what happens to her body next, that is immoral. That is immoral. And Trump's not done. He would ban abortion nationwide, restrict access to birth control and put IVF treatments at risk, and force states to monitor women's pregnancies. Just Google Project 2025 and read the plan.
The fact that this race is even close is still such a fucking jaw-dropping thing.
Well, we'll see how close it is on election day. I
Of
mean,
course.
she could win by 3 points across the board in all these battleground states.
The government should not be
Yeah.
telling her what to do with her body. Not the government. And when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedom nationwide, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. Proudly.
Tariffs and sales tax are actually kind of the same, Megan, unfortunately. They operate in the same way. You used to be paying more.
Treating immigration as an issue to scare up votes in the election. And instead, treat it as the serious challenge that it is that we must finally come together to solve. I will work with Democrats and Republicans to sign into law the border security bill that Donald Trump killed. When I was Attorney General of a border state, I saw the chaos and violence caused by transnational criminal organizations that I took on. And when I am president, we will quickly
I like that.
remove those
That's
who
either.
arrive here
It's such a play to the
unlawfully, prosecute the
conservatives,
cartels,
like
and
the
give Border Patrol the support
anti-Trump
they so desperately
Republicans.
need.
Yeah.
At the same time, we must acknowledge we are a nation of immigrants. And I will work with Congress to pass immigration reform, including an earned path to citizenship for hardworking immigrants like farm workers and our dreamers.
Wow.
As Commander-in-Chief, I will make
Yeah.
sure America has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has shown his contempt for our nation's heroes, calls them suckers and losers, called a 4-star Marine general a, quote, lowlife. I will always
Jeez.
honor, never denigrate, the service and sacrifice of our troops and their families, and fulfill our sacred obligation to care for them. I will strengthen, not surrender, America's global leadership. stand with our friends because I know that our alliances keep American people safe and make America stronger and more secure. Look, world leaders think that Donald Trump is an easy mark, easy to manipulate with flattery or favor. And you can believe that autocrats like Putin and Kim Jong-un are rooting for him in this election. I will always uphold our security, advance our national interest, and ensure that the United States of America remains, as we must forever be, a champion of liberty around the world. America, we know what Donald Trump has in mind. More chaos, more division, and policies that help those at the very top and hurt everyone else. I offer a different path, and I ask for your vote. And here is my pledge to you. I pledge to seek common ground and common sense solutions to make your life better. I am not looking to score political points. I am looking to make progress. I pledge to listen to experts, to those who will be impacted by the decisions I make, and to people who disagree with me. Unlike Donald Trump, I don't believe people who disagree with me are the enemy. He wants to put them in jail. I'll give them a seat at the table. I pledge to you to approach my work with the joy and optimism that comes from making a difference in people's lives. And I pledge to be a president for all Americans. And to always put country above party and self. I love our country with all my heart. And I believe in its promise because I've lived it. I grew up as a child of the Civil Rights Movement. My parents would take me to marches in a stroller, where crowds of people of all races, faiths, and walks of life came together to fight for the ideals of freedom and opportunity.
That's right.
I've lived the promise of America. I saw how hard our mother worked to give her daughters the same chances this country gave her. Growing up, I was blessed to have family by blood and family by love, who instilled in me the values of community, compassion, and faith that have always defined our nation at its best. I've lived the promise of America. I've spent my life fighting for the people who have been hurt and counted out, but never stopped believing that in our country, anything is possible. I've lived the promise of America, and I see the promise of America in all of you. In all of you. I see it. I see it in the young people who are voting for the first time, who are determined to live free from gun violence and to protect our planet and to shape the world they inherit. I see it in the women who refuse to accept a future without reproductive freedom, and the men who support them. I see it in Republicans who have never voted for a Democrat before, but have put the Constitution of the United States over party. I've seen it in Americans different in many respects, but united in our pursuit of freedom,
See, this
our
isn't
belief in fairness and decency, and
what
our
we
faith
want.
in a better future. America,
want conflict.
I know the
At least I
vast
do.
majority of us have much more in common than most
Just
others.
comparing
I know-
this to the rights wish to end birthright citizenship,
Yeah.
like it's such a monstrous, evil fucking idea or
Yeah.
proposal, just fueled by sheer hatred and xenophobia. It's a night and day difference, and I can't believe like enough people aren't seeing it. It's like, or just don't want to see it. You know, it's like we're so close.
Well, I think it's kind of what we were talking about earlier, where America lives in denial
Yeah.
about what a good portion. You know, people say the American public this or America is this. America's a big place with a lot of different kinds of people, but
Yeah.
people who are most similar are Republicans and conservatives. They're predominantly white, mostly male, and you know, either are from a rural area, live in a rural area, or don't have much of an education.
Yeah.
And these are a lot of people.
And that's why I
Right.
am in this race, to fight for the people, just like I always have. Nearly 250 years ago, America was born when we wrested freedom from a petty tyrant. Across the generations, Americans have preserved that freedom, expanded it, and in so doing, proved to the world that a government of, by, and for the people is strong and can endure. And those who came before us, the patriots at Normandy and Selma, Seneca Falls and Stonewall, on farmlands and factory floors, they did not struggle, sacrifice, and lay down their lives only to see us cede our fundamental freedoms. They didn't do that only to see us submit to the will of another petty tyrant. These United States of America, we are not a vessel for the schemes of wannabe dictators. The United States of America is the greatest idea humanity ever devised. A nation big enough to encompass all our dreams, strong enough to withstand any fracture or fissure between us, and fearless enough to imagine a future of possibilities. So America, let us reach for that future. Let us fight for this beautiful country we love. And in 7 days, we have the power, each of you has the power to turn the page and start writing the next chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. I thank you all. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
All right.
She's feeling good about it. She kind of
So
has
what do you
to.
what do you think? You think she did well?
Yeah, that was base. Yeah, I mean, like you said, she's doing the greatest hits, but she played it off very well. Like she delivered it pretty much. Like because she's been doing this for 3 months now. Like she's kind of used to saying the same things. She's used to the teleprompter now, so it's just about delivering it and just doing it, and it's just a way to knock it out of the park, get the message out there, and just make your case. And I think she did. I think she really nailed everything that needed to be nailed and just like urged to the American people, or at least whoever's watching.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think she's doing slow and steady. She's
hmm
doing the slow and steady wins the race.
hmm
She's playing very much a reactionary position, a counter punch strategy, in that we
Sure.
all know what Trump is. We know by now. This isn't 2016 where he was a mystery as to what kind of president he's going to be. Well, we
Right.
know because we had 4 years of him, and now we're
hmm
going to take that and put it on steroids because that's what this next administration is going to be like. So it's an appropriate use of fear in rhetoric. It really is scary to think about
No,
Project
for real.
2025 being instituted into our society. The value, I mean, it's just crazy. Now,
Yeah.
that I can't help but look past this and start to think about how much mileage is the bipartisanship really going to get her. But that's just, we'll see. We'll see what happens. She also might be talking like that. I mean, she talks like that because that's the neoliberal centrist attitude, is we got it because they always need a few votes from the Republican Party to get anything passed. It's ridiculous how razor thin our political system is. It's like
Yeah.
no party ever dominates for a while, or if it does, it's never the Democrats. It's never the
Right.
Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah. No kidding. And what's really frustrating too is there's we mentioned it earlier in the show, the mounting evidence that the polls are all like, whether it's swing states or national polls or what have you, they're all being skewed artificially by junk pollsters, polls that are funded by who, like, take your pick, a right wing influencer of sorts, a think tank,
Charlie Kirk?
a pop up, yeah, yeah, whoever, PragerU, like whoever, like oil tycoons and whatnot, who fund all these right wing shows and whatnot. There's a lot of money in the right wing, media apparatus and like the media sphere and whatnot. I imagine because a lot of them, like a lot of billionaires, obviously like are right wing Republicans and whatnot. They want to protect their money. They want to like they believe in a lot of the things that the Republican Party stands for. So they fund these junk polls to make it seem like Trump has
A
an
better chance of
advantage
them.
when
Right.
he doesn't. Yeah, and what does that do?
Suppresses the Democratic vote.
Well, it absolutely could, and it does. But not only that, it skews the averages. That's why the averages in each of these states is so
Yeah,
dead
my
even.
my number is a field goal. It's 3 points. My
Yeah.
my goal is that she's winning these states by 3 points.
Hmm.
Knowing how numbers work, my guess is 2.5 to 2.7%. She wins Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin by. If
Yeah.
she wins North Carolina or Georgia, it'll be by less than 1%, probably.
Easily. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
That's. I mean,
Arizona, I can't. I don't think
we're
she's
being
going to win
optimistic, but
Arizona.
yeah,
I don't think she's going to win Arizona because they already had their abortion measure, right? Yeah, they did. Um,
they did.
yeah, I
Unless it's
think
on
so.
unless it's on the
I don't
ballot
think
this
it's. I
election.
don't think. I don't think so. Let me just double check. Arizona.
Yeah, because that because ultimately these well, and my point was where I was
Oh
going with
no, it's
this
going on.
was
No, so it's right now. So she might win. She might win the
yeah,
Arizona.
because
If she
turnouts
does, it'll be by less than a percentage point. Hey, maybe she surprises me. We're going to get a
yeah.
great. This is going to be a great barometer
Hmm.
on the country, and
Yeah.
especially the effect of baby boomer conservatism on our society. This is the last gasp of baby boomer conservatism. That's what MAGA America is. And a lot of baby boomers don't want to admit that because it makes them look bad. But
Yeah.
if you study the devolution of Reaganism into Trumpism, you realize that that's what this is. This is
Yeah.
the ugly foundation of a political party that's being
Y-
exposed.
right. Yeah. Ultimately, like turnout historically favors Democrats. You have the race, the Senate race in Arizona. Like, I think it's Gallego versus Lake.
Yes.
But turnout may, and not to mention Waltz is
The
like really like super popular there as well. So
the
it,
Senate race I'm paying most attention to
the she he
after
tester.
Tester. Well,
Uh,
Tester is
oh
done,
oh
but tied
all
for first with Tester.
all red and Cruz.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
want Ted Cruz to die.
get him
Oh
the
my
fuck
God, I
out
want
there.
his
Yeah.
political career over. That guy
Hmm.
is just ugly on the outside, ugly on the inside. He's like Ben
Right.
Shapiro. There are
Oh
those
yeah.
guys. Stephen Miller is another
Hmm.
one. These guys are ugly
Disgusting
people,
weasels.
and they're
Yeah.
ugly people, and God is trying to tell you that they're ugly by the way that they
Yeah.
look.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, not to mention the shit that they spew, their all their bullshit
no, I know
excuses, and
it's just
they're
it's a
so
cheap shot.
Of course, of course.
It's an intentional cheap shot that
Yeah.
I think that's what I want to see. See, I just don't know if my brand of politics. I don't know if I'm right or not, but I know it's the value that I can add. I
Hmm.
know that the Democratic Party needs more intensity. It needs a better sense of competition. It
Yeah.
needs more separation between leadership
Hmm.
and constituency. Because I
Yeah.
know we want our leaders to come from all walks of life. Well, let's not forget about skills, talent, and education. Let's not
Hmm.
forget about those freak show intellects that really should be driving the train,
Yeah.
Like that is something that we have that they don't. They don't have a whole lot of talent over there.
Right. Yeah, so yeah, when it comes to these junk polls and whatnot, the point that I
Oh
was
yeah.
gonna make was that like the, the fact that it's dragging down these polling averages, it serves a purpose. It really does. If you really think about it, because if this is like happening, and it clearly is, a lot of people are starting to like take note of this, like all these polls that are skewed towards Trump that aren't really the most reliable polls, but they're considered reliable, and that's why they're incorporated into the polling averages. It's dragging the polls in favor of Trump. And the reason
Right.
that is, I believe, and like you think a bit further into it, it's to give the illusion that Trump has more support than he actually does. So that way, when the results
When
come
he
in on the
loses.
election day,
Yeah.
Kamala Harris looks like she has like way more support than was ever reflected in the polls. This could very well be the case. There's no way to be. It could be that way for sure. Not to mention, when it comes to non-response bias and how the polls are conducted, who is actually targeted for the polls, et cetera, who funds them. But if this is the case, like that does kind of signal that it may very well be Kamala's race to lose. Fingers crossed.
I
But
think it's
it's a really
definitely
interesting thing.
Kamala's. This MSG racism against Puerto
Oh yeah,
Ricans is just the last
yeah,
and most recent in a series of, you know,
yeah.
just
It
bigotry
it
and
doesn't.
xenophobia, and it's people are like we started the show with it. People are tired of it.
Yeah, it
Yeah, I
turns
think
people off.
there's what they're doing with the polls skewing the average. It seems like they're setting them up to be able to deny the results of the election.
Yes,
I don't think
yes,
that they legitimately believe they have a chance of getting the White House by complaining about the election. I don't think that's going to work, especially because
right,
it didn't work the first time. So the chances of it working again are less.
right.
But
Yeah,
it's going to preserve the movement. It's going
yeah,
to preserve MAGA America. This thing is going to be around the rest of our lives. It's like
yeah.
cancer. It
Hmm.
might be in remission, but it's still with us. And if we
Right.
don't continue to go to our radiation treatments every 2 to 4 years, then it's going to grow back and kill us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got that's the winner's attitude. That's me being like the
Sure.
motivational speaker of the Democratic Party because I just have met so many people in the party and they're really nice people and they're
Right.
really nice people and a lot of them are hardworking and contribute a lot, but I still don't see in leadership the kind of I hate to say winners that I want there. We'll see.
Of
If
course.
there's going to be if Kamala wins, there's going to be a trickle down effect. There's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of people who have played their cards right politically,
Hmm.
in an internal sense, that will cash in and go and get promoted or work another job. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And if Kamala does take this thing, it really needs to be hammered away at relentlessly. What caused her to win? What key factors brought her over the finish line and gave her the win um, that she earns?
As like
Uh,
referring back to it in like 2 to 4 years.
No, as in like, okay, so the election results come in, she wins. She wins enough, like say she wins like 286, 292, depending like maybe like
So she
North
wins the
Carolina
Rust
and,
Belt. Whatever.
yeah, North Carolina and Nevada. Uh, the media absolutely needs to hammer away at which demographics came through for her instead of Trump. What did Trump lose that Kamala Harris gained? Because it's going to be it's the most predictable thing in the world now because they've been signaling it for a minute. The Republicans are going to blame cheating. They're going to point to any number of things, just like they did in 2020. The media's job should be to counter that and be like, oh no, well Trump actually lost these key demographics here, here, and here, and they swung towards Kamala Harris. Just countering the narratives is going to be crucial because otherwise it's just going to be like endless chaos, and
Yeah.
that's ultimately the goal of the Republicans and the MAGA types and Trump's team. Everybody surrounding Trump, everybody cheerleading for Trump. Just shove a whole bunch of bullshit out into the ether as quick as you can, no rhyme or reason,
Mm.
and just make people believe whatever the fuck, as
Yes.
long as it sows distrust in the election results.
Well, look at the exposure in indie media recently of the Russian government paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for like 4 videos from guys like Benny Johnson
Yeah,
and what was her name? Chung or something. The
Lo-
Asian
Lauren
girl,
Lauren Chang.
Lauren Chang. Yeah,
Chen
I don't
Chen.
Chen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah. She sucks, and she tried to do
she's
stand up
awful.
comedy, and she was awful. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really
She
hard
she
these
was one of
days.
those. She was one of those like enlightened centrist types. Those like classical liberal types that
No, but she's super critical of
slowly.
people's lifestyles. She's
No, yeah, no, she
really
like she,
judgmental. She's
she
really judgmental,
of course
and
she
obviously a complete hypocrite for taking
no
money
no
like
of
this.
course yes
But look,
she
my point is that didn't do shit. People are
yeah
still gonna listen to those people. Like Benny Johnson is
of
still on
course
there spewing his garbage, and
yeah
people are still eating it up, and
no
that's
yeah
never going to change. That's the tragedy. People don't want to accept that like they have to live in a world with this fucking disease. Well,
hmm
sorry, you have to live in the world with COVID.
hmm
You know, you're gonna have to be getting
yeah
your COVID shot every year or whatever. Well, you're gonna have
right
to get your anti-MAGA shot every 2 years. That's the new messaging.
that's actually a really that's a really good message actually. It's just like show up to the polls every 2 years, midterms and election
It's
years.
actually four
Get your
times,
oh
right?
yeah
Two times
depending
in
on the
even
states.
years. Two
Yeah.
times in even years, primaries and
hmm
general, and then
Then
you
get
do
your
that.
anti-MAGA
So
shot.
that's a
Love
lot,
that.
man. Four times in 4 years, and it's
hmm
concentrated, so it's a 1 year window, and it's like
Yeah, yeah, but it's not
midterms are
surprising.
tough to get people, but you got to make it sexy. I mean, if you want to make anything work in American pop culture, you got to make it sexy. And maybe Kamala will surprise us all and she'll do it. I mean,
Yeah,
she seems cool now that she got over the whole weed thing. I don't know why she was weird about that.
right.
Um, oh, here's
Yeah,
Brad. Hold, go ahead.
hopefully, imposition of the shots.
I don't know what he's talking. What are you talking about, Brad?
Oh, the shots being forced upon Americans and whatnot. I mean, I
Oh,
didn't.
come on.
I ain't give a fuck.
Yeah, because I actually trust the medical system.
Yeah,
No, I'm telling you,
it's
man.
like
The thing that I'm going to get a lot of mileage out of when people, until someone steals it,
hmm
is the 9/11 example of Reagan's bullshit government is the problem. Because the
yeah,
reason 9/11 was allowed to happen was because airport security at the time was run
hmm
by the airlines, not
private.
the government.
hmm
And since the
Yep.
government has run airport security, they've stopped a lot of shit. They've
hmm
prevented a lot of shit that who knows? If the airlines had
Yeah.
still been running security, maybe they would have gotten away with it, But that's a
Right.
great example, I think, of just destroying these beliefs from conservative America that have become almost unspoken cultural assumptions. Like, of course, government's the problem. Who doesn't hate the DMV? These enormous oversimplifications. Like, well, that's not, you love the government when it's the military, don't you?
hmm
When it's the most well financed part of our government, you fucking love it.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Exactly. Um. When it comes to
Yes, Brad, that's absolutely true.
yeah, like
It's
sure, like
necessary though, but people appreciate it now. People appreciate this, not least of which there was a stand-up comedy bit from Louis C.K. about flying and like the privilege of flying and how amazing it is that we get to do it.
mhm,
And people just suck it up. And ever since 9/11, anybody who can remember 9/11 is okay with airport security. It's the delays. It's not the security that I think is burdensome. It's the scheduling. That's the tough part with the airlines. But anyway, air travel in general. Thank you, Brad, for being a loyal viewer. If
yeah,
you are new to this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends to
yes.
subscribe and all that good stuff. Let's
Same,
see. We are
same
at
to
an
my
hour
viewers
and
as well.
20. How many you got?
I got four.
All right,
But
right on.
but yeah. Ultimately, so what were we talking about before? Oh, um, yeah. When paying these personalities hundreds of thousands of dollars. What was it, Lauren Chen, Tim Pool, Benny Johnson? I think Dave Rubin was another one. I think maybe Steven Crowder. It it can't be overstated how much is at risk, not just domestically but internationally as well if Trump wins, because Elon Musk is in regular communication with Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump is in regular communication with Benjamin Netanyahu, which is a violation of U.S. law. There, why why trust these people? Why trust these foreign entities at all? You know, like Elon Musk and Donald Trump are actually openly admitting that they will destroy the economy to implement the Project 2025 agenda, to achieve MAGA's goals when it comes to mass deportations. They understand the consequences, and they're openly admitting that they're going to destroy the economy over it. And not to mention, they've also mentioned cutting Social Security and Medicare and whatnot. Everything that's laid out in Project 2025, they don't give a shit. Like if your biggest concern is about lowering gas prices and grocery prices and lowering your bills and whatnot, how does prioritizing mass deportations of people who were born here, by the way, going to help that at all?
Now there's a good question where you should apply. How are we going to pay for it?
Yeah,
Really? You're
yeah.
going to sick law enforcement and ICE, and you're going to
You're going to
just staff
strip
up and spend what $100 billion probably to get them all
Mhm.
out. Like, give me a
More
break.
than that.
Yeah, probably more
Yeah.
than that.
Like I think one of the main architects behind it was even told or asked like this may cost $88 billion a year to go through with this mass deportation plan under Project 2025. How will this affect families? You'd be tearing families apart, and like I guess the response from the knuckle dragger was, "Oh, we'll deport the families together."
Hmm.
It's literally just stripping away citizenship from people that were born here just because one
Yeah.
or if not both of their parents isn't a U.S. citizen. It's it's
Yeah, I
absolutely
mean,
vile.
you're not,
It's
but you're not
disgusting.
surprised though, right?
No, no,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling people is
It's like the big
stop
main boogeyman.
being surprised.
Yeah,
Stop it.
yeah.
Stop being, oh my God, how could people be so cold hearted?
Hmm.
Because they're people and they're
Yeah,
fucked up. They're not normal.
yeah,
Wall said weird. He's being nice there. They're
yeah.
not weird. They're from
Right.
where my perspective, actually, I know a lot of people who are conservative in my early life in particular.
Hmm.
So they don't feel weird to me. They feel like selfish, entitled, narcissistic, childish assholes and bitches
Yeah.
who don't give a fuck about anybody that's not like them. So what do you say to someone who's constantly telling you to fuck off?
Yeah.
At some point, you
Yeah.
fuck off and say fuck you.
Yeah.
Like they're one fuck you after another. That's all this MSG shit was. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It was, oh, we went too far this time. What? We've been here before. We've been here 1,000 times.
No, of course. Yes.
And no one's like, there's no voice on the left that's saying fuck you right back. That's what I
Yeah.
want. But that's
It,
selfish. Maybe
it,
that's
it,
selfish.
Yeah, it's like the classic meme. It's this guy in a suit saying, "Stop immigration. We can take care of our own." And this kid walks up to him and says, "I'm starving." And the guy says, "Fuck off."
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
yeah. I mean that sums it up. It's just like they're not motivated by making the country better.
No.
I don't know what it's going to take for Republicans to understand that it's not. There's no motivation behind the intentions of these people that's rooted in anything positive
That's
in
right.
improving the lives of anyone. It's just
That's right.
punishing those you feel are lesser than you. Megan says they won't prioritize deportations of people born here. That's insane. They will eventually. They'll start with the people that
Yeah, there's
are
no end to this. There's no
yeah,
end to this.
yeah.
The only
If
people that'll be left are people like me. Like,
yeah,
that's it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Ending birthright citizenship
And then they're going to try to nationalize
applies to millions
Christianity
of
and
people.
like,
Yeah.
they're going to I'm telling you, the term to start using after we're done with Trump is Confederate Christian nationalism. That's what this is. That's what
Right.
Trump is Confederate Christian nationalism because the
Mhm.
evangelicals might say they don't like him and they might not like him, but they sure as hell vote for him. They sure as hell
Yeah,
show up for him. So
right. Not to
you
mention
don't want
Trump
me
is.
to lump you. You don't want me to lump you in with the guy after you voted for him 3 times. Like fuck you,
Yeah,
fuck you. You're out, dude. 3 strikes and you're out.
right. Not to mention Trump has said multiple times on day one he will begin deporting people. Like it, I think it was the figures that we were talking about earlier. The knuckle dragger that said, "Oh, we'll just deport families together." I believe that was the head of ICE, the current head of ICE, who was told like this would cost $88 billion a year to
Yeah,
mass deport people, and you cannot logistically do this without concentration camps. There are too many people. Like
right.
if you end birthright citizenship, which is laid out in Project 2025, that applies to millions of people here. U.S. citizens, people who were born here on U.S. soil. Like not all countries have like birthright citizenship like we do. This would apply to them. Will they be prioritized right away? Not right away. I wouldn't think so because it's going like logistically it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a multi-year long process to remove these people, and that's what they intend to do. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be it's going it's like it's basically like the brink of civil war because not everybody is going to stand for seeing their
Yeah,
neighbors and whatnot being rounded up by ICE or the federal agents and kicked out of the country, like regardless of if they're citizens or not. You know, it Project 2025 is one hell of a fucking document, and it lays out um, everything that's coming for us if Trump wins.
right. Yeah, and now we've got a piece of documented. Thank you. Um, Documentation that we can refer to as like, what does MAGA want? Well, it's all laid out right here. I mean, we should be branding. That's maybe the gift at the end of this election. That's the silver lining in terms of political capital, is we'll have Project 2025 to stick in their face for the next 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
I don't know if that'll
they
be enough though. It never feels. It just never feels like it's enough with the left. It never feels like we're gonna win. It always feels like we're gonna get. If we win, we get
will
lucky.
just squeak by. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, what ultimately matters is the Republicans don't care who their plans will affect. Like they say, you know, they want to deport criminals and whatnot. I mean, well, according to their eyes, in their eyes, anybody who's here illegally is a criminal by default. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, if you end birthright citizenship, are you going to look at those people who were born here the same way? Are they automatically criminals because you changed the law
Hmm.
under like while you're in office? Like you legally changed the definition of their citizenship by so that means like they're illegal and then by default a criminal because they're here illegally.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck are we doing here? What the fuck are we fucking talking about? Yeah,
People don't
scary
know that
times.
much about immigration, man.
Yeah,
People
right.
don't
I
know
mean,
anywhere near as much about immigration as you
it,
do.
it's a complicated thing, but like even
Not
I can
really.
see even I can see like it's not so difficult to where you can like, understand like America was founded on immigration, people coming here from all the countries
Right,
of the
right,
world
right.
and whatnot, and like we've been taught
Even if it
this
weren't,
like
it doesn't matter. You still have to deal with
since
it in a
elementary
productive way.
school. We've been taught it's the melting pot of the world. Like there's no
But no
distinct
one's
culture; it's a
talking. The
blend
thing
of
about
cultures.
so there's two things about immigration. One is rhetorical. The other is legislative. So the bill that they proposed that Trump killed via Mike Johnson, she keeps talking about that like they're gonna just input what the bill was that they proposed back in 2022 or whatever it was.
Hmm.
And that was a really intense, ruthless bill. So I hope she doesn't do that. I hope she doesn't just deny, new citizens or new immigrants their path to citizenship.
Hmm.
What I will
Right.
say though about like the immigrant experience, the immigrant mentality, if you will, that people already know. They just haven't thought about. But I've asked a lot of children of immigrants and immigrants themselves,
Hmm.
what is the immigrant mentality? And the answer is the immigrants' kids.
Yeah.
They accept, they're the toughest people in our country. They accept that their life is going to be a grind, that there will be moments of happiness, graduations, weddings, childbirths, all
Yeah.
that good stuff, whatever. Those big moments will be there. But by
They're not
and
here to have
large,
a.
day to day, they're going to be grinding, making the same amount of money every year, building up that pension fund, and giving their kids a education that hopefully includes college, and hopefully doesn't include a ton of debt, but ultimately results in their kid living the American dream. They're not going to live the American dream. They're not going to,
Yeah.
own their own 7-Eleven or anything like that.
Yeah, it's selflessness. Like they're the hardest workers, but they're not doing it for themselves. They destroy their bodies. They're not the healthiest people. They do it to give their kids a better life. Ultimately,
Right.
that's what it
And
comes
that's
down
something
to.
that you wouldn't think of on your own. What's better than someone motivated by themselves? Actually, when you're motivated by somebody else, and now you think, oh, okay, so you're motivated by your wife or your husband or your brother or your sister. Yeah, okay, I'm motivated by them. I'm motivated to like work hard for them or friends. Yeah. Then you go to kids, and you're like, oh, okay. If someone's working for their kids, that's as hard as they're gonna work.
Right. Like
That's as hard as they're going to work if they're a good person. I mean, some people don't put any time into their kids, which
right. Like
is
like
just disgusting, but
these
what it
people aren't
is.
living fancy lives. They're not living lives of luxury. Like they're literally actively grinding away to make enough to save up to pass down to their kids and give them better lives than they had, which is literally the American dream. It's the
Right.
American way. Just because of their citizenship status, that mindset doesn't automatically become invalid because of where you come from.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Megan
got any
says,
chats?
yeah, Megan's the usual contributor, and I very much appreciate her uh, as always.
She
She
hate watching?
says she's a really good friend of mine. He has said on the ultimate talking about Trump. He has said on multiple occasions he doesn't endorse Project 2012 and hasn't even read it and refuses
Oh,
to read
come
it.
on. Give me a break. Well, since when do we
Why
take
do we? Why
Trump
do
at
you?
his word?
Yeah.
Since
Why
when
do
do
you
we take
believe
Trump at
him?
his word? He's been lying nonstop since he got into public political life.
Trump is a liar. He will say whatever he has to garner favor from the public. He understands what's popular and what's not. Like, sure, he hasn't even read it. I believe that because he doesn't read anything. He can't
Right.
read. He
But he
has
still knows
people.
what the basics of it are.
Yeah,
I
because he
guarantee you
supports
that.
the basics of it. He support like the majority of what's in
Well, he
Project
doesn't really even
2025.
support anything. He's just going to do what he's
Right.
told. He's just
Yeah.
going to do what he's told when he's in, legislatively. He's just going to do what he's told. He's not
No,
going to think
of
twice.
course.
Like,
It's
oh,
like
that's the guy that kissed my ass, so do what he says.
yeah, it's
Like
it
he's a
and
he wants to be a king. He thinks he wants to be president, but he actually wants to be king.
he does this all the time. He did it with his cabinet officials and like people that he had in his administration, people who face charges. He'll literally say like, "Oh, I didn't know him. I didn't know him that well, but like whatever, you know." Or with Jeffrey Epstein, even though like they were
Right.
actually kind of
Buddies.
buddies and
Yeah.
like seen like multiple pictures together. I didn't know him. I didn't know Jeffrey Epstein. And same thing, Project 2025. When people started waking up to it and started reading it and going through the entire thing and pointing out what's in it and the fact that so many Trump officials wrote it and J.D. Vance wrote the forward for it, Trump distanced himself from it because it's not popular. It doesn't make him look good. He wants to look good because he's an egomaniac. He is a narcissist. If he's not looking good, then his feelings get hurt because his ego gets shattered. He needs to look good for the public. He can't have his brand, his image under scrutiny, even though it
Right.
constantly is at all time. But like if he perceives it to be under scrutiny because he sees it something that's not popular, then he's going to distance himself from it by saying, "Oh, I don't know anything about it. I'm just the cat." That's what I just read. I read that they were eating the cats. They were eating the dogs. I was just reading it. I
Yeah,
don't know.
he
I don't know
never
if it's
takes any
I don't know if it's
responsibility.
true or not. I don't know if it's true or not. I
Does
just
it
read.
does a child take responsibility when the child makes a mistake? Nope.
Yeah, it was just like we
Not
talked at the
really.
beginning. Right.
Not usually.
Yeah.
Not
And,
usually.
and,
Unless he's a
and,
very mature or she's a very mature person. A
right.
child does
No.
not usually take responsibility.
Yeah, the another fucking perfect example because and everybody predicted that he would do this. We talked about it earlier in the program. Tony Hinchcliffe when he made those remarks at Madison Square Garden, and everybody had a very negative reaction to it. There was a huge backlash to it because nobody liked what he was actually saying. What does Trump do? I don't know him. I don't know that guy. Yeah, and then the Trump team comes out and is like, "Oh, that guy wasn't vetted. We
Right.
didn't vet those comments." They lied. He
Yeah.
was vetted. The
Yeah.
shit that he did say, yeah. So they're all liars. They'll say whatever the fuck they need to in order to gain power and gain favor for people because they are
Now, if Brad were
egomaniacal
on the show,
narcissists
Brad
or
would
ego.
say, "Oh, the Democrats are liars too," and it's like, yeah, I
Sure,
mean that's kind of true, but
they're
at
different
the same
kinds of
time, they don't
liars.
have Project 2025. I mean,
Right?
it's a
Yeah.
sad day. Like for people who are educated and informed on politics, it's a tragedy. American politics. It's what prevents this country from truly being great is our political system.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult because of the way the country expanded to make structural adjustments to our system of government
Hmm.
that we have to live in a two-party system until the Republican Party gets rid of basically the Bible beaters. I really think if the Republican Party would get rid of the Bible beaters, then they could maybe have a chance at being like useful and
Sure, but that's like a
legislatively.
it's
But
just a
it's the
huge
base.
block of
It's the
yeah,
base.
it really is. Like all like the biggest churches are
It's
always buying them.
disgusting.
Yeah,
It's a
it's an
disgusting
incestuous
use of religion,
relationship.
and it
Yeah.
didn't start happening until Dick Nixon flirted with it, but it was
Hmm.
really made a play by Reagan. Now, we keep
Oh
going
yeah,
back to him a lot, but he is the demigod
satanic
of the
panic. Yeah,
Republican Party. So
yeah,
let's deconstruct their figures to understand them, not
of course.
just their image, but what their relationships were too. I'm telling you, everybody needs to study conservatism and the history and the major players, people like Barry Goldwater and George Wallace, these nut jobs that have been around for a while. They just haven't had as much political power as they do right now. People are saying
Hmm.
this is normal. It's like, well, yeah, it's been a part of our society for a really long time, but it's never been normal. It used to
Right.
be normal in the South to have segregated schools, by the way. That used to be
Yeah.
normal. It used to be
Right.
normal to have slaves in the South. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, should I continue about how much further the rest of the country is on a lot of these issues than the South? Because it's
Yeah.
tough to ignore. It's
It's
pretty
not.
tough to ignore.
It's night and day, honestly. Final comment, I guess, from Megan. She's speaking about Trump. He didn't say he read it. He said he saw videos of locals talking about it on the news. So, like,
Who
when
gives a
Project
shit?
2020,
I don't care.
yeah,
Whatever. What?
I mean, it sounds about right because it's like all he really does is watch the news. He watches
Yeah,
TV
he
and
won't even
whatnot.
read an executive summary. I mean, he won't even read the first page of a report. Like,
Right.
he'll just they'll tell me about it. Give me the brief. And then he'll probably won't listen. So
Yeah,
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 he's a
like
media whore. He wants to be the center of attention within the context of mass media for as long as possible.
and his perspective of the common people and the common public opinion usually comes from the news. It comes from polling data. It comes from numbers. It comes from media coverage in general. Um, I mean, at his rallies, how often do you think he actually like meets and talks with, you know, civilians and what like actual
Never.
citizens? It
He despises his base. He doesn't respect his
yeah,
base. They're a
he
means to an
doesn't.
end. He's just
It-
telling them what he wants to hear. I'm telling you, he's like a bad actor, a bad stand-up comic. Like he's just a bad performing artist. and his gimmick is really bad because he doesn't know how to be an artist. But it
Oh,
is still shitty art. It's trash. It's like
right.
graffiti. It's like bad
Yeah.
graffiti.
Yeah, Megan wanted to make a correction. That was about the Haitians. Him saying about him is because I claimed that he claimed to have read about it, because he said so himself. What happened was he was actually confronted about it and said in an interview, "Well, have you retracted it? Because this story was debunked and whatnot." And Trump said, "Well, I don't know whether it's true or not. I just read it and I don't think." I think it's the paper or he probably read it like on social media because that's where it all originated. And the story, like I don't know if you guys remember, but uh, JD Vance was even confronted by I think it was CNN about the Haitian pet eating story and whatnot, and he even like actually said, if it takes making up stories to get the media's attention, that's what we'll have to do. Like just mask off about it, just
Hmm.
completely blatant and shameless about it.
Yep.
Yeah, and it checks out too because there's so much shit that's made up from uh, the right.
All right. Well, we're at an hour and 40, and I got to get going
Right,
to
you're
lax
right.
practice. So let's wrap it up here with our final thoughts.
Sure.
We will probably be broadcasting as much Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week as we can.
Hmm.
But definitely, I will be going live as soon as things start to get called, states start to get called, and
Yes.
we'll react and give insight. Probably MSNBC will be our drug of choice in terms of coverage,
Sure.
which I'm fine with. I know all those personalities really well,
Hmm.
and they're a product of the corporate media, but they're the most redeemable of the big three. So
Sure.
we'll stay tuned to them. But yeah, I think final predictions. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with my head. I think the heart is just anxious, and still,
Same.
as a
Same.
nation,
Big
we're
time.
just, it's just like, yeah, my heart is just. What do you? Hold on a second. I am dressing up as my Jack Tar outfit, which is what I have dressed up as for weddings before. It's a British sailor. I had it custom made for my brother's wedding, and so it
Nice.
fits great. Yeah, what are you gonna be?
Beetlejuice.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Me and my now ex girlfriend, we actually just broke up this morning. We went as
Oh
Beetle.
shit,
Yeah, we went as Beetlejuice and Lydia to a rave in Oakland last night, and it was fun. And I nailed the outfit.
nice,
I think we nailed it. It was
nice.
actually a lot of fun. But I have a shift tomorrow night, but I plan on dressing up as Beetlejuice again and doing my job dressed as him. So
You should. You'll get extra
yeah,
tips.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, absolutely.
so I'll let you have the last word, but before you do, I will say that my prediction for the 2024 presidential election is that Kamala will win because she'll win the Rust Belt. I
Hmm.
don't really know, have a strong feeling about the rest of the states, but I think she takes Nevada, and I think
Hmm.
she takes North Carolina, and
Hmm.
I think she barely takes Georgia, and I'm going to go clean sweep. I think she barely takes Arizona, too.
Hmm.
And the participation numbers for women are off the charts. It's an historical turnout, especially from women in battleground states being ultimately the deciding factor. I know this is basically Michael Moore's take, but I'm choosing what feels like optimism.
Hmm.
I mean, it's definitely optimism to say that she's going to sweep the battleground states. I think that this MSG shit was a tipping point in the opposite direction. It's like, are we really that
Yeah.
cruel? Are we really
Yeah.
that cruel? Like,
Yeah.
like the people who laughed at that were already voting for Trump. The people who were like, really,
Yeah.
come on, this is
Not
what
to
the GOP is now.
Not to mention
So,
the lunacy from the other speakers and the shit that Rudy Giuliani was saying on stage as
oh yeah.
well. There was just chock full of it at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, but that was the thing that caught fire in the media
Of
was
course,
the
Oh,
Puerto Ricans and
one of the biggest
mountain
ones.
like
Yeah,
island of trash or something ridiculous. So anyway, that's all by way of saying I like Kamala for the battleground sweep and putting MAGA away for at least the next 2 years, hopefully forever in a political sense.
yeah.
But I like Allred to beat Cruz.
Hmm.
Tester, I don't know what. That's actually the big question mark is I don't know what's going to happen with Tester. I have
Right.
no idea. I have no idea
Yeah.
because those polls have been all over the place. But
Yeah.
those are my parting thoughts for now. Otherwise, I will see you guys on Morning Bro. Take it away, Stat
Yeah.
Pat, for the final word tonight.
Yeah. So it looks like numbers are indicating that Republicans are probably going to maintain control of the Senate. There is a chance that the House might. Thank you as well, Brad. Thank you so much. There is a chance that we can take the House, but that's 53-47 odds in Republicans' favor. I think the worst case scenario is okay, so as an aside, if there's no shenanigans, no state level fuckery, and the electors actually pull through and um, send the results up to Washington like the way they're supposed to. If the electors in each of the states actually do their fucking job, if all goes well, if everything goes smoothly, I think worst case scenario, Kamala Harris squeaks by, gets Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and might as well add Nevada to that as well because she's pulling the best there, I believe, right now. Best case scenario, she does a clean sweep of all the swing states. So you can add North Carolina right after that. Then you can add Georgia. You can add Arizona. But what might also be interesting is how close she gets in Florida and
Texas and Florida.
Texas. Yeah, I don't think she's going to win either of those states, but I think
She'll
she'll
encroach,
come close, like maybe within 2 points. Like,
hopefully.
yeah, but either way, anxiety has been fluctuating. Either we're about to enter unprecedented uh, territory, just completely terrifying new reality, or we hold out, this neoliberal capitalist nightmare and hold the fascists at bay a little bit longer.
So much cause for optimism. No,
No
it is
kidding.
about growing up. This is a growing pain moment for the country, and we just got to
Yeah,
suck it up. And it's
yeah,
going to be 8 years of incrementalism. And then hopefully we'll be like, okay, that was fun. Now we need real structural change because it's 2030s. And that's going to be 100 years after the Great Depression. And people will be reminded of that and be like, oh, wow, is this like, have we really come that far since recovering from that?
uh,
So I don't know, man. We'll see.
right,
We'll see
right,
about
yeah.
it. But anyways, for Stateless Patriot, I am Dieter McBusiness. This is Left Coast Live. We are reminding you that you don't get change in America by asking nicely. So get up and vote with the heart or vote with the head. Whatever you do, definitely vote.
Hmm.
Unless, of course, you're conservative. Don't vote if you're a conservative. You don't have to vote Democrat. Just don't vote.
Right. You
All
guys
right,
have a good
guys.
night. We'll see you
Talk
guys
to you
next
later.
week. Thank you.
Bye bye.